Hello, I'm Phoenix City Councilman Kevin Robinson, representing District 6. Today, we're here at Channel 11 studio to chat with our Assistant Parks and Recreation Director, Tracy Hall, and Parks Ranger, Cody Huggins, about the importance of hiking safety this summer. Tracy, Cody, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Cody, as a Parks Ranger, you're on the trails quite often. What are some of the important tips residents should keep in mind while hiking our trails?
Water, water, water.
Water.
Absolutely. We just want to make sure everybody's drinking water, staying hydrated, staying on the trails, hike with a buddy, take a phone, and remember our dogs. We want to make sure that they are off the trail after 100 degrees, and they're not allowed on the Camelback Mountain Summit Trails or Piestewa Summit Trail.
Okay, let's go back to the water portion, and I understand that completely. But how much water? If I'm out there hiking, someone of my age and my weight and height and stuff like that, how much water would you suggest I bring with me?
It's very important to hydrate the night before. Oftentimes people aren't drinking the night before. We want to make sure they're staying hydrated the night before. They get up in the morning, they take water with them. Our little rule is once the water's half drank, that's where you turn around and go back down the trail. Okay,
and you mentioned our furry friends. You know, talk to us a little bit about that. You know, how do we keep our animals safe, especially our dogs? Because I see people hiking with them more than anything else.
Right. Yeah, people bring their dogs out on the trails all the time, or from out of town, they show up with their dogs. We just want to make sure that folks keep them on the leash, obviously at all times, and then that after 100 degrees, dogs are not allowed on any of our trails. And on the summit trails of Camelback and Piestewa, dogs are never allowed.
Each year, over 200 hikers are rescued from Phoenix desert and mountain parks and preserves because they aren't hiking right and staying safe. Cody, can you talk a little bit about what a mountain rescue looks like and how you partner with the fire department when situations like this occur?
Well, obviously we want to avoid that at all costs. And this time of year especially, we find it happening all too often. Folks just need to remember when they're coming out, hike with a buddy, bring a cell phone. The most importantly, stay on the trail. Tell somebody where you're going. Dress up appropriately. Wear a hat, long sleeve clothing, comfortable shoes, and stay on the trail. Bring lots of water.
Now, sometimes it gets so hot in the summer that it's just not safe to hike. Tracy, can you talk about some of the safety restrictions that you guys put in place and why?
Yes. So we've partnered with the Phoenix Fire Department over the past couple of years to ensure that our hikers are safe. And one of the things that we did is we went to the Phoenix Parks and Recreation Board along with the Phoenix Fire Department to implement restrictions. They started off as a pilot. Now we are full blown, so it's not just in the summer, but anytime we experience an excessive heat warning, that we will close Camelback and Piestewa, trails at Camelback and Piestewa Peak from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So it doesn't mean that you can't hike on those days at those trails. It means you need to be off the trail by 9 a.m. But the other thing is you can hike in other trails within the valley. So over 215 miles of trails are available for hikers who are acclimatized to the heat and feel comfortable and are experienced hiking. And the reason we picked the trails at Piestewa and Camelback is because, one, they're very popular. We get a lot of out-of-town visitors who know of those trails but may not be able to hike them in high heats. Also, it helps our rangers and our firefighters in terms of mountain rescues because those rescues become more difficult on those trails.
Okay, well, thank you. And Cody, thank you for the information you provided. Now I'm going to switch gears a little bit. This year we have an anniversary, or a birthday, some might say, for South Mountain Park. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there?
Yes, the City of Phoenix and the Parks and Recreation Department are excited that we are celebrating 100 years of stewardship at South Mountain Park and Preserve. And so we are excited. We have a few projects coming up. In November, we should finish with the South Mountain Environmental Educational Center, and we'll have a celebration of sorts, and we'll use that as a catalyst to celebrate the 100 years. We're also remodeling our activity complex. And with the general obligation bond funds, we are improving some of the roadways at South Mountain. And if you look on our social media, you'll see that we are posting throughout the year 100 things we love about South Mountain.
You know, and one last question about South Mountain. What's so unique about South Mountain Park that a lot of folks may not know from a standpoint of its size, here in the country.
We are one of the largest. For years, we were able to tout we were the largest, but we are one of the largest parks, municipal parks in the country. And so that is something that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, as well as all the amenities we have within the park, but the size and scope of the park, and there's so many things to do for novice hikers or people coming to a mountain park. We've got stables, we've got bike riders, we've got paragliders, so there's something for everyone at South Mountain Park.
Okay. Again, Cody, Tracy, thank you both very much for the information. I know it's going to be helpful. I know it's going to hopefully save some people from going through some traumatic experiences if they get out there when they really shouldn't. So we really appreciate all your information and all your help. So thank you very much for that. Next, I'll chat with Phoenix Fire Chief Mike Duran and Fire Captain Michael Duffy about how disregarding hiking safety can impact our public safety personnel.
For those planning to hike in hot conditions, the following tips are advised. Avoid hiking during the peak heat hours, stay hydrated, and carry plenty of water and drink it regularly. Dress appropriately by wearing light-colored, loose-fitting clothing and a hat. Know your limits, assess your fitness level, and be sure to be acclimated to the heat. Stay informed and check weather forecasts and trail closures before hitting the trails. During times when trail access will be restricted, parking lot gates will be closed and signage will be posted. Phoenix Park Rangers will be visible at the park locations to remind and educate trail users about the restrictions. Closure information will also be communicated through the City of Phoenix's social media and website.
Welcome back to On Location. I'm Phoenix City Councilman Kevin Robinson, here with Phoenix Fire Chief Mike Duran and Captain Michael Duffy, who is a firefighter with the city. Chief, Captain Duffy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Really appreciate it. I just wrapped up a conversation with Tracy Hall and Cody from the Parks and Recreation Department. We were talking about hiking safety and, just all the issues surrounding that. How much water people should take on hikes with them and everything else, and the importance of staying on trails. Now, my first question to you is, when hikers, even some of our most experienced hikers, aren't hiking safely, what does that look like for the Phoenix Fire Department? What happens when you get that call that someone needs to be rescued off a rigorous hike like Piestewa Peak or Camelback Mountain?
Certainly. So we understand there's many, there's folks that have many different levels of hiking experience out there in our communities. Again, we're trying to protect all of the community out there. So by minimizing the impacts, not only on the safety of the community, but also for our firefighters. And as Captain Duffy will talk about the number of resources that we dedicate to these type of rescues, depending upon the trail that we're working on at that time, and the level and the extensiveness to these type of responses and the time frame it takes us for us to perform these different types of operations. Obviously, we're doing these in extreme temperatures. For me, in my role, and our firefighters obviously are humans also, and they do experience the heat just as our folks that are out there outside in these temperatures experience it the same, right? So we put a lot of measures in place to educate our firefighters and help them understand and make sure they're prepared. They understand their roles and responsibilities of doing this job and performing these operations. They hydrate, they minimize their physical activity during this time of the year, but it does take a lot of resources, it takes a lot of time for our folks, and so for me it's a big concern of the safety of our firefighters.
And justifiably so. Captain Duffy, can you tell us, why do people need to be rescued off of some of these mountains? What do they run into?
So in my position, I work on a truck called Car 957 North, and we are safety officers for the entire valley, for the entire response area, but for TRT and hazmat calls, and we also are the crew chiefs on the Firebird 10 rescue helicopter. So when we get these mountain rescues and we look at the call, where it's at, Piestewa or Camelback or many other trails, the first thing we look for is whether that cell phone ping is on our map, in our rig. And what we're able to do is start coming up with a rescue plan in our heads as far as whether this will be maybe a big wheel, maybe we need to build a rope system if we're going to come down the stairs at Camelback, or we may actually be in a situation where the safest and most practical thing is to fly a helicopter in. Injuries, it's the two biggest ones I would say are dehydration and then actual orthopedic injuries, whether it's fractures, dislocated knees. We see a lot of ankles on Camelback Mountain, specifically above the rails. In those areas is where it typically is going to become a helicopter operation because of distance and time. We can usually effect a helicopter rescue much quicker than building a system and having to lower somebody down in these extreme temperatures. We're able to fly in, extract the victim, get them down to base LZ, cooled down, and into definitive care much quicker.
Okay, you mentioned, we'll talk about the helicopter in a second, but you mentioned the big wheel. Can you tell us about that a little bit? And how far can you take that particular piece of equipment up a mountain?
Well, really indefinitely, it breaks down into two pieces: the basket that goes on top of the wheel, and then the actual wheel. And then we have purpose-built backpacks that our technical rescue members wear, and we carry those up, and we can build the basket in place and put that person in there if they're unable to walk, and then using different systems, whether it's just a piece of webbing to act like a brake or an actual rope system to lower when the very steep areas. But that is a purpose-built. It's a lot of what we do. In flat trails like on the Sonoran Trail up in the North Valley off of Cave Creek, a lot of that is big wheel country. It's flat, it's long. You can carry that a long ways, miles. We've done 4-mile big wheels because Firebird 10 was either on another call or maybe down for maintenance. These are things that our technical rescue teams are very skilled at and very aware of and execute very well.
How many firefighters does it take? Let's say someone like me, I get up there, I break a leg somewhere, you bring the big wheel in for me, and how many firefighters will it take to get me out?
That's a great question. So each technical rescue team is comprised of 4 members, each engine 12, ladder 12, or some of our technical rescue trucks. There have 4 members on there. So to get that started is going to be 4, and then we'll have 4 that'll come and kind of assist, maybe rotate in and out on flat trail. When we start talking about steep trail, where we're going to have to build a rope system, like if we were going to have to lower you down the rails at Camelback, it just becomes more labor intensive. Now you're probably looking at more like 16 rescuers to get up there and start building that system to layer in the safety and start splitting up the work. It becomes very, very labor intensive, and it takes a lot of resources to make that happen.
And so, Chief, the next question I'll have for you, when that happens, let's say you have 16 firefighters out rescuing someone, my size, getting me down to safety, getting me to the medical care that I need. What does that do to the rest of the system?
Certainly, these rescues, require a number of resources, right? And we talk to our folks about when they are on these rescues and performing these type of operations, make sure you have enough resources, especially this time of the year, because we're going to be rotating our folks. We have policies in place that we build our rehab sector in so that we can rotate our folks, cool them down, get them water if this becomes a very long and extensive operation. So we do have systems in place to protect our members so that they don't necessarily will become dehydrated, right? We monitor them, we take our vital signs just as we would on a house fire or a structure fire. We do the same type of operation for rehab on these type of operations on mountain rescues. So for us, it's a big concern, obviously, and then those areas are impacted. So we're moving resources around the city to cover those areas where those rescuers are now performing, where those stations are now empty because they're on that extended operation. We're moving resources to make sure we're maintaining coverage across the city.
Okay, can you tell me how the fire department works with the Parks and Recreation Department? Clearly, this is a collaborative approach, and Captain Duffy, you had mentioned sometimes the helicopter, and I guess that's the police department's resource as well, a shared resource with police and fire. So it takes a lot, obviously, but can you tell me about the coordination that has to occur in order for you guys to be effective?
From my level, working with our parks director, Cynthia, she's been excellent. We have great communication. Obviously, everything we look at as far as the safety of our community, identifying those trail closures, moving the hours up, and we truly appreciate the partnership, the Parks Board. We work on many different levels here, and I'll let Captain Duffy talk with his experience at his level there performing those operations with the park rangers. But again, ensuring the safety of our park rangers when they're out there performing these operations is just as important. So we're making sure we're taking care of them just as well when we're out there in these extreme temperatures.
Captain Duffy, you want to add anything to that?
So my level is obviously not that high. It's where the rubber meets the road. My impact, or the impact and the back and forth with the parks guys is tremendous. They're an incredible resource. Nobody knows the trails better than them. When we're doing a helicopter operation, they're the enforcement piece to close the trails so that we don't have interference from hikers. They're able to shut the trail down for us, so we're able to do our helo op. I had a rescue just recently at Apache Wash, way north side of the valley, and the park ranger, they are able to get on our radio channels and communicate with us. I started speaking to that gentleman in my role, and we were able to actually figure out a way to be able to drive to the patient using my pickup truck that is four-wheel drive to make access from Carefree Highway. It wouldn't have been as easy. We would have eventually figured it out, but the knockdown on the time of having that incredible experience from those gentlemen and ladies, that he was on the call, he was Johnny on the spot, he got me the information we needed. I was able to communicate that to our command structure and say, hey, I'm gonna go to Carefree Highway and attempt to make access, and I was able to drive within 50 yards of that patient, and then we were able to wait for more resources and get that patient out who had a broken leg from a mountain bike accident. And we were able to extract that patient, not having to use a big wheel. We actually used a pickup truck to get him to the ambulance off of Carefree Highway, where initially it looked like we were going to be making access off the Sonoran Parkway. One example.
Yeah, and I know you guys have plenty. You have to be resourceful. But let's talk a little bit about some of the new things that you're doing now. Some of the new stuff I'm understanding, or I'm hearing about these cooling bags for folks that may get overheated while they're out hiking. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. So the Phoenix Fire Department did a pilot program last summer looking at these what they call rapid cooling bags. Basically a bag that you can place a patient in from an infant all the way up to an adult and cool them down prior to transporting them to the hospital. So as the goal for us is obviously when you folks are experiencing a high temperature, so we would deploy these bags, we'd fill them with ice, place the patient in there. We can still provide IV therapy and care to the patient, but try to rapidly cool them down as we're transporting them to the hospital. So again, it's all about improving survivability of folks that are experiencing these type of heat stroke, heat exhaustion symptoms out there. It is something that certainly can be applied here as if we're performing a rescue and someone's experiencing these type of symptoms, can deploy this rapid cooling bag as we're transporting them to the hospital there.
Can you guys tell me about the technology that the Phoenix Fire Department employs now in its rescue efforts?
Certainly. Very proud of our program. We've now have installed drones into our system here as part of our program and response. And so when we do have an incident that's a rescue or performing a rescue on a mountain now, we are deploying our drone response with this here. It's part of our command process. It helps with recon. It helps with navigating our firefighters to a patient location. It's been proven very successful for us on many different types of incidents, specifically when it comes to performing these operations on mountain rescues. And we really appreciate the support of the city of Phoenix for implementing this. We're working with the Parks Department on their drone program just as well. And it's certainly, for me, it's helping with the safety of our community, but also for our firefighters as we're sending folks up. Now we have the ability to get some video footage and be able to see exactly our location of our patients. And I know Captain Duffy's experience with this here certainly helped him in his role as a subject matter expert in these areas.
So yeah, the drone team has been an asset for us. They actually have a system where they can take an iPad to the command vehicle. Some of us have the link where we either get an email or a text from the drone team when they deploy, and we're able to watch in real time the location. They'll get a high wide view, and maybe they can show us exactly where that patient is and then zoom in tight. Some other technology that we're using, it has to do with our alarm room. They're able to ping the cell phone of the person that's calling. They're able to use something called rapid deploy, and that can also come via email or text, and we're able to use those coordinates, and we can use anything from Google Maps with those GPS coordinates. It helps us, if we're doing an air operation, to fly directly to the ping. And it lessens the time of us having to maybe find that patient, especially with a good cell phone ping. And that's one of the great things about rapid deploy through our alarm room, is that they're able to give us how good that cell phone ping is. They'll say, hey, this has got 95% accuracy or 50% accuracy. In some areas, especially crazily on South Mountain, there are some dead spots in that park of very low to no cell phone coverage. So it's good to know how good that ping is as well. Very helpful.
This is all great stuff, and you know the entire Phoenix Fire Department needs to be congratulated on everything that it does to keep us all safe and sound. We really appreciate that. Chief Duran, Captain Duffy, thank you very much for chatting with us today. Because like I said, it does a world of good for people to understand what all goes into these rescues, and you know, quite honestly, the risk that your firefighters take each and every day. So we're appreciative of that.